Welcome back to the Crossing King Garage. I am the Rockin' Randy, and this is Kind Kristen. We're coming to you straight from the Crossing King Garage, just wanting to make sure that you are on top of all of your entertainment stuff. We've got a great show for you today, folks, and we are doing it from the Crossing King Garage, which is always a good thing, especially this time of the year, because usually this place is trashed with me trying to get it reorganized and records in place and books in place, and Kristen kind of calmed down from Christmas, and we have a great show. Welcome to Versus! Take it!
And now that Daddy has done his radio announcer voice, let's all just settle down and settle in. Like Daddy says, we are back at it with our newer series to Crossing Kin Versus, where we take two things of pop culture and pit them head to head. We've already done a couple of episodes of this, and that playlist will be somewhere above our heads here. We are hoping to do more of them as this year goes on, because you guys actually seem to really enjoy them. So, hey, thank you for clicking and liking and keep on doing just that.
Ring that notification bell.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So today we are actually pitting a couple of our favorite TV shows against each other.
Oh, pray tell, what shows are they, Kristen?
CSI versus Bones. Now, both of these shows are science-based procedural cop shows. Where
forensic scientists.
Yes. Basically get to run around and playing cops. Now, let's make something abundantly clear. This is not set in any form of fact. The CSIs do not get to run around with guns and arrest people. That's not how it works. And I very highly doubt respectable law enforcement people would let a forensic anthropologist run around telling them what to do.
Yeah, these are great shows. But they are escapism, as we've talked about before with some of our movie selections. Check out our top 20 film franchises. But they're good shows. They're good dramas. They're cop procedurals with science thrown in for good measure.
So today we are going to be looking at these juggernauts of television and seeing which one reigns supreme. Now we have 5 categories that they are going to be going head to head in, and I'll run down them in just a second, but let me make something very clear. These are long running shows. Therefore, they have had several cast changes. We are going to be focusing on CSI seasons 1 through 8. And then Bones, season 3 through, I think, 9 or 10.
Yeah, both of these are decades-long films, or television shows, rather. They are over 10 years with seasons, and so they're just characters who develop together. And the reason we're placing those, they're our favorite casts, and that's why. And it's our show, so we get to pit the verses against who we want to.
They're also probably the most universally loved version of each of the casts, and I figured it would be an easier way to properly pit them.
So, how are we going to do that, Kristen?
All right, we have the lead, the supporting cast, the cases, the villains, and as always, the impact. What people said about them, what continuing legacy they still have, so on and so forth.
Go ahead and start versus.
All right, so round 1, Did you hurt your own ear?
I just lost another frequency. It's okay.
Round 1, we have the lead. Now, in CSI's case, we are talking William Peterson's Gil Grissom. In Bones' case, we are talking Emily Deschanel's Dr. Temperance Bones Brennan. Now, I do want to say this. Emily Deschanel does a great job of playing her character because it is very much a similar character. Well, actually, it's a very simple character for her to play.
Well, it's also a character that had, if I'm not mistaken, a wealth of book literature written in behind it, too.
No. See, the way it works is Kathy Reichs, who wrote the basic source material for Bones, writes about Dr. Temperance Brennan, and Dr. Temperance Brennan writes about Kathy Reichs. It's very funny and a very clever way to keep that plot line from the books. She is very different from her book counterpart, however, because one of Bones's favorite phrases is, "I don't know what that means." Kathy Reichs always knows what that means. She references the Lion King in the first book.
Wow.
Like, Bones doesn't know what the Lion King is.
So how do we contrast her against Grissom?
Grissom and Brennan do share a couple of things. They are both very job focused
Mhm.
until they get a significant other. But in Grissom's case, that doesn't really detract from his job focusedness. He's able to compartmentalize a little bit better than Bones, which in Bones's case that adds to quite a bit to her humor
Mhm.
and kind of her character development or regression in some cases. Grissom is the boss. He knows he's the boss and he's a great boss. They are very different characters though. It is
It's
very
difficult to
plain.
compare them.
It
It
is.
really is. But for my tastes, I think Bones does it.
Really.
I do. I think Bones wins out as far as the lead goes for a couple of reasons. Number
Okay.
one, she's set in DC. She has to deal with the
Bureaucrat.
bureaucracy.
She punches a senator in
She
like the first episode.
she has to deal with politics. Yes, CSI does, but it's set in Vegas.
Yeah, Grissom doesn't have to deal with, like, he gets in fights with the governor, but he never just straight up,
Right. I mean, I think and
despite how much he may want to.
you never see his character as much as you do Brennan's
That's true.
character transition into that role of being Bones and Booth's partner versus Grissom and
Sarah.
Sarah's partner.
Now, don't get us wrong. I do love Grissom and Sarah, but we didn't really get to be sweet with Grissom and Sarah
Right.
until we got to the spin-off, the
Yeah.
sequel show, CSI Vegas.
Mhm.
So I think I'll go with you on that. Yes, I think Bones kind of loses some of her edge as the series
But
goes
it
on.
replaces it with the humor.
It replaces it
You
with
made
a
that point
really
earlier.
unique and just bless her heart,
Precious humor. Endearing. It's an endearing
yeah.
humor.
And
And
Grissom
that's
is more dry.
and
Do not get us wrong. I love William Peterson with all of my heart.
yeah, I wasn't real crazy about the first thing I saw him in, and that was about that
But
was
he wasn't the bad
he
guy
wasn't
in
the
Red
bad
Dragon.
but
He was the cop.
he was that movie is just
Yeah.
it was the sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
I think it
That
was the prequel.
You're right. You're right. Prequel. It was
It
prequel.
came out after Silence of the
Yeah.
Lambs, but it was the prequel to it.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
But as a character, we love the character.
Of Gil Grissom.
This is difficult, but I think Bones wins out
I
just because of the endearment later on
Yeah.
and the way you see her character mature and grow.
We kind of leave Grissom
Still
when
hanging.
he first in season 8. Again, this is season 8.
So you can't count CSI Vegas.
We can't until later. We can't really talk about CSI
Right.
Vegas. We can't talk about him and Sarah in season 10. But I mean, it's still him and Sarah just in later seasons. Again, we'll talk about that much later, possibly not at all. But yeah, just because we leave Grissom in a weird place at where our cap has ended, I say yeah, let's give this one to Bones.
Okay. Next.
Supporting cast.
Oh,
so yeah, on Bones, let's talk about Bones' supporting cast first because theirs stays just a little bit more solid than CSI's.
Without doubt. And I think that's the reason why they win this category too, is because of the solid same group of people. You don't have this rotating door of folks. And wait a minute. As much as you do CSI. Now, CSI has its core group. Don't get me wrong. But it's not as many as the Bones core group.
And it from seasons 1 to 8, it is fairly samey. I think Sarah is the only one who leaves in season 1 to 8.
I still give this one to Bones. Just because their characters. Again, there's a
very family.
There's an embracing and a maturity that as you see Bones proceed, there's the fact that they get married and the fact that Bones and Brennan get married or Booth and Brennan get married and Hodgins and Angela get married
and Cam and Eris do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just a homogenous
Daisy. There's so many sweet relationships
that you don't have in CSI. Don't get me wrong.
There are relationships, but it's not warm. I will give you the supporting cast. I will give it to you on the basis that there is a more familial sense on Bones.
And that drives a formula.
Yeah.
Okay. CSI has a formula, but because of the disjointed nature
of
in
their
of their
cases.
exactly, I just don't know that you ever just develop that traction,
Mhm.
so to speak, that you do with
It
Bones.
gets there, but it takes a minute for them to start feeling more family. And by that point, Grissom is gone, Sarah's gone, Catherine's on
Yep,
her way out, Warwick is sadly gone.
right.
So yeah, I'll let you give it to Bones.
Okay, so that's 2-0 for Bones.
You know what? I think we're coming up on the ones where CSI might take it out.
Okay,
All right. So cases. These,
CSI, hands
yeah.
down. You're in Vegas, baby. You know, what goes on in Vegas really should have stayed in Vegas.
Don't get us wrong. There are some fascinating ways they destroy these skeletons on Bones,
Uh,
but Daddy is
hu-
absolutely
the
right.
human body and bones is just gross.
Yeah.
But the
Some
outlandish
gross things on CSI too, but the doc down there, oh
the
my god.
outlandish ways at CSI, it just speaks to the human depravity
Yeah.
in the world. It's so much so, I mean, in such a more shocking way, I
Yeah.
think, in some terms, than Bones does. CSI wins the cases hands
I
down.
mean, we have people falling out of casino hotels. I think at one point somebody is found inside a slot machine. Like, there's gangsters, there's
Grown men in diapers
deserts. Oh,
and
it's so weird.
just baby
Furries. Wasn't
outfits.
there a
Just
furry convention at
there's
one
a
point?
yes.
It's all so weird
It's just
and
bizarre.
it's so
And
fascinating.
it really, anthropologically speaking, is a better
Anthropology type show.
it is. It's a better anthropology type show than Bones
Than the
is
forensic anthropology show.
because it just shows you human depravity, and it just is. And that was one of the things. CSI was the original of this.
It
They
started in
originated
2000.
this, and they just roared onto the scene with things that had never been seen on network television before. And I think some of that shock factor, hands down, cases, CSI wins it without doubt.
All right. Up next, villains. This is going to probably be the harder one. So let's just talk about the big bads for a second.
Okay, Gormagon and Bones.
Gormagon. In Bones, we have Gormagon, we have Palant, which he barely is there, and we also have the Gravedigger.
Right.
So they have three really good serial killers. On the CSI side, we have the miniature killer.
Mhm.
We have several. There are Squeagle, who scared the crap out of me.
Right.
I always forget where Squeagle falls, but I think he just barely squeaks into the little cap we gave ourselves. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And they never caught Squeagle,
Mm.
the creepy dude in the leather suit. And then I think at the very end of our little cap again, we have Hoyt. That's not his name. No,
That's
that's
Brazilian
that's
Isles.
Brazilian Isles. The guy that harasses Lawrence Fishburne.
Yes. I know who you're talking about.
But I think we get him at the end of our little cap, and he is terrifying. But the miniature killer alone,
You're
in
right.
my opinion,
Yep.
is scarier than all three of the Bones.
I think
villains.
for me though, the miniature killer was
She lasted a full
yeah,
season.
but the
and
solution to that was um left it flat.
No, I disagree. I think making her just obsessed with beating Grissom to the point she was willing to just destroy his life.
I think it was anticlimactic, though. I mean, in comparison, I mean, and that's what Versus is all about.
Yeah.
When you start talking about just the sheer terror behind the Gravedigger,
Mm.
I mean, you feel
There was
that
also
terror.
that guy that buried Nick alive.
That's
and those
and that's
episodes
true.
were directed by Quentin Tarantino
That-
and gave me nightmares.
Well, you start adding ants and you start adding all this other
the
kind of
heat, the
skit,
air
just-
suffocating.
but that
the-
wasn't a
Those were that was a
continuing-
two-part.
was it-
Yeah, that was a
okay.
two-parter. That was a two-parter.
I-
It might
I
have been a
still think-
three-parter. We also had the Justin Bieber people, where Justin Bieber was a cult. Like, there were so many.
I
Like,
just have one thing to say about all of the guys on CSI who
What?
were the bads. They weren't no cannibal.
we had a cannibal at one point on CSI, I think. But here's the thing: Gormagon was also so anticlimactic.
I agree with that. I agree.
meet
We
him.
never got to
It
see
did
him.
not make sense how they turned Zach into his apprentice, but there is a good reason because they were in the strike season,
And that's true too.
so
The
their
writing
season
during that
got
time,
their season got
abbreviated.
smushed,
Yeah.
and so they weren't able to do the full story they wanted. So Gormagon also was super anticlimactic.
I'll give this just because of that. Because Gormagon was, and Pallant's end was anticlimactic too, I thought.
Like, I think the Gravedigger is the only one on Bones who got a really, really good end.
Yeah.
I mean, her end is was met by a newer serial killer who hurt your favorite Squintern.
I'll give this one over to CSI. Just because
the ones on Bones, they wound up being anticlimactic.
I agree.
Except for the Gravedigger.
Their resolution wound up being and on CSI always tended to be much more of a psychological type thriller, especially with the miniature killer and everything. So
and with their other serial killers as well. I'm sorry, they're just not coming to my brain right at this precise moment.
So we're 2 for 2, right?
Yep, we're all tied up. So let's see how Impact.
Please tell me that we have an odd number of categories.
We do.
Impact. I was afraid.
Impact is our last one.
We should never have ties at versus.
We do 5 for this very reason.
Okay, Impact.
So
CSI.
We're talking spin-offs. We're talking people who still love and talk about the show.
Hands
we're talking
down.
casts. But yeah, this is hands down CSI's category. We've got 4 spin-offs. Miami, New York, Vegas. I thought there was one more. And technically one that's called The Real CSI.
CSI Cyber.
Cyber, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew there were 4.
Yeah.
But here's another...
Which we're watching right now, and we don't understand why it only got
2 seasons.
2 seasons. I mean, it follows the CSI formula, and
is it just because they're feds?
I don't understand.
CSIs,
the characters,
federal agents that aren't technically lab CSIs.
Patricia Arquette is not one of my favorite actresses, but she is.
Vanderbeek's doing fine.
Vanderbeek is doing fine. Ted Danson has now arrived and has really loosened things up on the 2nd season of it.
I love Crummy. The girl Raven is great.
It's one of those things that makes me scratch my head. You know, they probably got canceled for the same reasons Blue Bloods did. I don't know. That's the only thing I can figure.
Ted Danson and Patricia Arquette aren't cheap.
They aren't cheap, But I will give this sheer impact alone.
I do want to say this before we officially award the point. Bones does not have a legal term named after it. There is a thing called the CSI effect, where lawyers hate CSI because their jurors are now like, where's
forensic pathologists?
Where's the DNA?
Right.
Where's this? Where's that? They want all this stuff that CSI presents to you, and they hate it because actual people don't realize it takes about 2 weeks to get DNA back. Right. It takes about a month to get fingerprints back.
So what you're saying is the whole CSI has slowed down the courts, and that in itself...
The legal system hates CSI because they sped up the process for television because we cannot sit around and wait 2 weeks for prints on a TV show.
That in and of itself should be awarded the impact point.
The real life legal system is mad at CSI because...
I want to make one thing perfectly clear. We've obviously got a winner, but my preference is always going to be Bones.
Bones also had a spinoff, just so you guys know. Bones also had a spinoff called The Finder.
That's right.
It lasted 1 season, but it was really, really good. It's kind of good that it only lasted 1 season because Michael Clark Duncan
passed away
literally a month after they had been canceled. He had some sort of heart attack or something. Right. So they would have had to deal with the loss of him, and he was the heart of the show.
And you might remember him from The Green Mile with Tom Hanks.
The Green Mile, he had a ton of voice work. Michael Clark Duncan was an incredible actor. And the show would have been canceled without him regardless. They couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah, couldn't have replaced him. I forgot about The Finder. So, have you been able to find where you can stream that?
I think it is available currently on Disney Plus.
Well, and maybe Fox has.
No, it's available on Disney Plus
Well,
and Hulu.
Disney owns Fox.
It's
so,
available on Disney Plus and Hulu. I keep
go
seeing
and
it
check
pop
out.
up.
Go and check out The Finder. It was maybe two
One
seasons.
season.
One
One
season long, and
One
it was
hectic season.
It was that one spinoff from Bones. But Kristen has a point. CSI had at least 5 different shows and Legal Impact.
all with great casts. Like one of these
doubt.
days we're gonna just talk about the CSI spinoffs because I think in some cases we like the spinoffs more than we like the 15 season plus the movie show.
We can't say enough about Gary Sinise and CSI New York.
I really
we absolutely
CSI
adore
Vegas.
that. Yeah. Yes.
I hate that it got canceled. Again, it was canceled for money reasons. Come on, CBS. Cancel Survivor already and just give the money to your procedurals. Please and thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
CBS, you and Amazon need to figure out what you're trying to do with some of these titular characters that you own. Amazon owns Bond. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
Bond. Amazon, get your stuff together.
But anyway, so obviously, if you've been keeping score like I have with my handy,
CSI wins this version of Versus.
It lasted for 15 years. It had, I think William Peterson has an Oscar nomination to his name.
And that's worthy. I mean, because the man was an incredible, incredible actor in that role.
Let's be honest. This is the godfather of every procedural that has come out since 2000.
Especially if it has any kind of medical profundity
medical
to it at
or
all.
scientific backstory. Like, I am convinced we would not have stuff like Rizzoli and Isles. We probably wouldn't have Bones without CSI.
And I don't know that we'd have had Ducky and Jimmy and NCIS without CSI.
The medical science lab. We wouldn't have Abby.
Right.
We wouldn't have had Ducky. Like, none of the fun, dorky lab people.
And some of that has been because forensics has come into its own as a division, if you will, of law enforcement and of scientific investigation.
And because television chose to focus on it. But again, CSI was the start in the year 2000.
It's the standard bearer for all of those shows. It really is.
Just ended its glorious run there from the year 2000 until 2023. Because it didn't have a season in 20. Vegas ended before 2024, right?
Yeah.
So from the year 2000 to 2023, there was a CSI show on at one point.
And don't think for a second that there's not a CSI being in development.
Obviously, CSI has won here, but let us not discount the fact that the Bones cast is the one that won out. Emily Deschanel as our lead, and the supporting cast, David Boreanaz, PJ Thine, John Daly.
Yes.
John Francis Daly. And all of the other cast members, they had such a warmth, and let us not discount the Squinterns. One of these days, we are going to rank all of the Bones Squinterns because they're one of Dad's favorite characters in television is one of the Bones Squinterns. He loves him with all his heart. So let us not discount the fact that Bones Capped is definitely near and dear.
That's right. Congratulations, CSI. We love the show. We like Bones too, but you just edged them out by only 1 point. So this episode of Versus goes to CSI.
All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. CSI won. Did we get it right, or did we veer off into the weeds way too much?
What verses would you like to see?
Yes,
now, remember,
please.
they're comparative type, either television shows or movie universes or something along those lines. We probably have a DC versus Marvel coming sometime, especially with the new Superman movie. I personally am very excited about. But somebody is not. So
I'm far too biased to ever give any point to DC. Therefore, that will not happen.
Do you want to see a DC versus Marvel? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you ring that notification bell and join us next time on the next episode.
If you guys get us up to 1,000 views on this video and 100 likes, I will work in a DC versus Marvel. But I'm not kidding. 1,000 views and 100 likes. There is your challenge. Let's add 50 comments onto that.
Challenge. What do you keep adding rules to the thing? Challenge accepted. We're
you, sir.
We need an episode just talking about how we go about coming up with episodes. But anyway, that's us from the Crossing King Garage. It's a little chill day outside, baby. So we're going to go in, warm up, and probably have some Christmas leftovers.
I'm Kristen.
I'm Randy. And as always, you're part of the family here at Crossing Kin. Welcome. We're glad you joined us.
Bye.
Later.